everyone, welcome back to another edition of the Author You, Your Guide to Book Publishing podcast. And kudos for us. I'm thrilled to say that Good Pods ranks it in 4 categories within the top 10 for the author writing publishing connected community. So I think that's very, very cool in the process. We're going to be doing something. It's been a long time since we have done a show around book reviews. The why, the how, what do you do with them? How can you do marketing with them? And what are the reliable sources to go with? So with that said, I always like to pull something I do a random open with that. And I just did a random open to the section on let's see, I want to get into marketing. So let's go into marketing savvy. So then what I'm going to say is randomly, this is the Snappy Sassy Salty Success for Authors and Writers. And I just kind of opened it up, and here's the quote that came up. When book sales start to come in, you've hit the marketing sweet spot. So that kind of ties in a little bit with what we're going to be doing today, because we're going to be going into this whole arena of, involving book reviews and how to even do some marketing with them. With them, we have an expert, and it's someone I've known for a long time, when she actually was the head honcho of the book pages in the Rocky Mountain News, which went unfortunately bye-bye years ago. And the surviving thing in our neck of the woods is the Denver Post. At that time, Patty, for 28 years, she was a reporter, and she was the editor at the Rocky Mountain News. And that, with that said, it went, goodbye in 2009. But she has served since that time, she has become the chief book critic and editor of the book review pages when she was there. Now she is the co-author of Fun Places to Go with Children in Colorado. So she's one of us. She's an author, which was published by Chronicle Books. And it sold a lot of copies, like over 20,000. But she also wears this other hat. She's the co-founder of Blue Ink Review, which is one of the reviews that I recommended. In fact, with my private coaching class last Friday morning, I just said, here's one of the ones you want to work with. So Blue Ink Review, it's a service that has reviewed more than 10,000 books since its inception. And one of the very cool things about Blue Ink Review, it has a great relationship with the booksellers. They're a trusted resource when they come up. And I can't say that about all book reviewers. Why do you care as an author? Because I'm going to tell you, some libraries will not carry a book unless it has independent book reviews. Not just from readers. They want independent, reliable sources. Blue Ink Review is one of those sources. So with that said, Patty, welcome to the show.
Hi, Judith. Thank you. Glad to be here.
I'm really glad to have you here and back. So, and when we tape this is like a single-digit day here in Colorado. It's freezing outside. So,
yes.
Yeah. So we're really glad to be inside as we do this. But so, Patty, let's, I know your background. And it's interesting to see. I remember a discussion we had a long time ago about the self-published market and the independent published market. And here you are, is now one of the most reliable sources for self-publishers and indie publishers to go to get a legit book review. What bridge did you cross to get there?
Oh, gosh. Well, well, I will give you some context. So when I was book review editor, I was frustrated because we got a lot of self-published books, and people would always call me and say, can I get a review? And I would always say, I'm sorry, we just don't have the resources to review self-published books. And the context for that is that I would get probably 250 books a week from traditional publishers. And these were all books that readers were interested in. They were books by Stephen King and Louise Erdrich, or, big authors. So those were all books that I felt compelled that we should review. And
Mhm.
self-publishing books, when you're doing a page like that, if you're going to do a self-published book, it should be something that's very noteworthy. Otherwise, you don't want to run a whole ton of reviews of books that are just not notable or going to get a bad review. So we just didn't have the resources. Honestly, when I started the Rocky Mountain News doing book reviews, my budget was we paid reviewers $20 a review. And
Wowza.
yeah, and we could maybe run 20 reviews, I want to say a month. So,
Mhm.
there was just no space and there was no budget for somebody to go through and vet all these self-published books. So that was the reason that I was frustrated with self-published books at that time. But when the paper went down, we were just, it was just an idea that self-published books needed those kind of reviews to help people market their books and also as sort of a way to sift through what's good and what's bad. And so we founded this company, and that's the story. So,
Well, I think also going back to that transition time, that the quality of what a self-publisher can do in from the cover design, from the interior design, from just the whole presentation has so dramatically changed,
yes,
you
that's
know,
really true. We've noticed,
so dramatically changed.
yeah, people are more attuned now to know that they need professionals to help them with their book. They need professional designers, professional editors, copy editors. We've noticed, I'd say in the last 5 years, a really strong increase toward better quality, much better. So, yes, things are getting better
which
all the time.
which it makes it fun, um, totally when you see that transition. And I can remember, Patty, when I would look at someone would bring their book, we wanted to be encouraging, and I would say, "Oh, this is so great! You've got your book out." Now I am not so free with those words
Mm.
because sometimes I will say, "What were you thinking when
Yes,
you created this cover?" What were you, because so many times it's like I talk about, there are the two W's, who are you writing for and who's the buyer, because sometimes they're not mixing,
right.
as well as the title doesn't work either.
Yes, we've seen that. Well, it's important to realize that publishing houses have experts in all these different categories, right? So they have experts to do the cover, they have experts to do the marketing, they have experts to do the copy editing, they have experts to do the line editing. And when you're self-publishing, it's just you're the staff, so you're not an expert in all those things. So it's important to hire experts to help you with those things, and that'll
and,
improve your
and they're
quality.
out there, and they're readily available. And yes, are there some who are better quality than others? Oh yes.
Yes.
Oh yes. So, and that's when you go shopping. And I'm going to tell all of you that if you're in this newbie lane right now, and a lot of times if you go into your local bookstore, they actually may have some recommendations for who you to contact, on that, because they're dealing with what she was talking about, the bombarding. And Patty, I mean, I was in your offices, and I can remember piles where when she says 250 books, that could be a light week. It
Yes.
was just, and if they had their own office, these editors, they would push them out the door so anyone in the hall could just pick them up, get them out of here, get them out of my
It's true. It's true. I think people just don't realize the volume. It's crazy how many books come out. Now with self-published books, what do they say, like 4 million books a year or something like that?
Yes, it depends upon, they don't all have ISBNs, which would be one of the differentiations.
Uh, but it's
Anywhere from
just
2 to 4
huge.
million books. It's gigantic.
Yeah.
It's gigantic. And with AI now,
Oh,
um, the word pump is 24/7 what's happening. And maybe I actually would love to have you make some comments if you can tell on some of these things come in. But
Yeah,
because
I'm glad you bring that up because I was thinking I should talk about that a little bit because we are starting to see a lot of AI books and maybe the ones that are better, we don't know that they're AI, but some of the nonfiction books that are like self-help or business or something like that, you can tell, and they're really terrible books. There's a lot of, they're wordy, they're abstract, they're bulleted all over the place like an outline. These are not books that are getting good reviews. I mean that, and like I said, these are the ones we can tell are AI. Maybe AI is doing a great job on other books that we don't know are AI, but we partner with Forward Magazine. I think you know that. We offer a package of two reviews, one from Forward and one from Blue Ink at a discount. So Forward has notified us that they will not accept any books written by AI. And if it's found to be AI, they won't review it and they won't refund your money. So,
well, I celebrate that. And I'm sure you're aware of what the Authors Guild does is they actually you can do a certification that and they put it like create a badge with a number that your book was produced.
that's good. I think that like
Literally,
AI should be labeled. I
yeah.
really feel that way. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I put it on the copyright page. I am so biased
Yeah.
here on where I come from as someone who's written a few books and sometimes you labor over those words and stuff versus the 24/7 pump that can go out. All right. Well, and I also know that for all of you listening in, that bookstores are really pushing back on, and a lot of these booksellers are very savvy, and they can pretty much tell when something has got the AI generator behind it. So
Yeah.
that's important to know. And I do want to come back and talk about Forward because I'm a fan of the partnerships that you had, and actually that's what I was recommending to my private coaching group this
That's nice. Thank you.
this morning, as a matter of fact.
Thank you. We appreciate that. Yes.
Okay, so why are book reviews important?
Oh gosh. Well, for a lot of reasons. One of the main ones is that we just live in a world where reviews are used for everything. So I
Mhm.
bought a refrigerator, I check the reviews. I go to a restaurant, I check the reviews. I buy a dishwasher, I check the reviews. I sometimes when I'm ordering online, I check the reviews for shoes and blouses. So that's one of the great things about the internet is we get this sort of crowdsourced feeling about things. And reviews are just really important in today's world. So book reviews even more so because you're talking about a book that could be 300, 400 pages, could take hours to read. People are not going to want to invest their time in a book they don't know is going to be worth their time.
Mhm.
Book reviews are also important because they offer an unbiased opinion about a book. We're
Yeah.
talking about professional reviews, industry reviews. These are people that don't know the author. I can't tell you the number of, I used to do editing for books, and people would say, well, I don't understand all your criticism here. All my friends and family loved it.
Oh,
You
that's
know,
the problem. All right. First,
yes.
stop, everyone. Yeah.
Yes, well, friends and family always say they love your book. I have a story of a friend of mine who she had a self-published book or a friend of hers self-published a book, and she said, "Oh gosh, it's really terrible. What am I going to tell my friend?" And we talked about it, and then she was going to a book signing by this friend, and I said, "Well, what did you tell your friend?" And she said, "Oh, I just told her I love the book." So that's what happens with friends and family. So reviews are important in that they offer an unbiased look at a review. They're trusted that way. Um, they're more trusted than friends and family. Also, they're really good for your metadata. So, for example, Ingram, the big distributor of books those databases are accessed by librarians and booksellers.
Right.
They look at reviews on that site to decide if they're going to buy books or not. I'm told that the more book reviews you have under your book title, the higher your book will go in any search. If a librarian's searching books on rockets or something, if you have a lot of reviews, your book is more likely to go to the top of their search. It's good for your SEO. It's great for marketing materials, which, we can talk about. And it's just something that librarians and booksellers use. They have to rely on book reviews to decide whether they're going to buy a book because, they're buying hundreds of books. There's no way they can read every book. And reviews are really important to conveying what the book's about and whether or not it's worth somebody's time. So those are all
Mhm,
good reasons for book reviews.
mhm. So I'm going to circle back. There is a website I've come across that is worthwhile for a lot of you to know about. It's called Help This Book. Just saying. So if you're looking for what we call beta readers, these, where you used to take your books to the friends and family and the guy down the street and or or your hairdresser, those are friends and family, and they do like you and love you, and they probably will not say anything negative. Right. So a site, and there is a cost. I think it's like it opens it up. You would load your manuscript or what you're working on. I think it's like $30 a month if I recall, but it's help thisbook.com. And you will have people who will actually make comments on the line on the book what they think is wrong or it could be, oh my God, this is fabulous on that. But that might be something for those of you who really need um, uh, unconnected, unrelated eyes and that read your genre. I think that's the other thing, Patty, that's really important to do is you want reviewers from people who like your genre and understand your genre. It's like, horror is not my thing. I would never write anything in the horror line. But if I
Right.
had someone who loved horror and they were reviewing my book, it would scare me a lot.
Right. Right. Well, you're going to trust those reviews or, that's why you look to reviews also to people that are experienced in that genre.
Mhm.
It is
So
important.
So, and I just have to echo her. It's really important to go and you have to, for those of you who already published, you're going to have to ask not once, not twice. It could be a dozen times for people that you know that post out reviews. And Patty, I'm actually seeing it less and less. It's harder to get
Less and
people to
less.
get up reviews. It's
Oh,
what my feedback from people is it's harder and harder to get they'll commit. They say, "Oh yes, love the book." Would you
oh, you
go?
mean,
Yeah, yeah, harder and harder.
well, and maybe we should talk about the different kinds of reviews because what you're
Sure.
talking about are customer reviews, right? Reader
Hmm.
reviews.
Hmm.
So,
And like yours is a professional review, right? Which
right.
is you need those, everyone. So let's talk about you mentioned forward. A lot of people may not know what forward is, so maybe we need to do it. To let you know on who that is. And there's others out there to also know about to take advantage. And some are going to be paid. Maybe we need to kiss on that one too. Paid and free reviews. And when should you get a paid review? Go after it versus the freebies, which are usually going to be the customer reviews. Right? I think I have that right.
Yeah. Okay. So, well, let's talk about all those things. So, a customer review is someone who just as a reader, a regular reader, they read your book, they write a review, you post it on Amazon or Barnes and Noble, you use it in different ways that you can. And those are really valuable if you can amass a lot of them. So, if you're on Amazon and if somebody's trying to buy a book on Amazon and they see a book that has 500 five-star reviews, that's really valuable, right? It really gives you an idea that that might be a great book. If you're seeing like four reviews that are all 5 stars, that's not going to help you very much. It's like people know that a lot of times authors try to get their friends and family, their cousins, their neighbor to review a book and put it on Amazon. And if you don't get the mass that tells people that people outside of your inner circle have reviewed your book and it's on there, it's not going to be very helpful. And I think librarians and booksellers might pay attention to if you have 5-star reviews on Amazon, they're probably going to really pay attention to that. But if you have 10, probably not so much. So
Mhm.
that's one thing. So that's a customer review. It goes on the bottom of the Amazon and Barnes and Noble type pages. A professional review is generally it's somebody who's reviewing for an institution. So it might be someone who's reviewing for the New York Times. It might be someone who's reviewing for us, Blue Ink Review. It might be someone who's reviewing for Publishers Weekly. These people are vetted. So when we choose a reviewer, we look at their past reviews. We look at everything we can to see if they are, credible, good reviewers with a solid background in publishing and writing. And these are professional reviewers. Like you said, a lot of them have a specialty in a certain genre. So
Mhm.
some people like to read thrillers, some people like to read romance. We have a whole roster of various people who read different kinds of things and have a deep knowledge in their background. A deep knowledge in that genre's background. So they know the conventions, they know what's right, what works for those genres, what readers expect from those genres. And then the other thing that's important to mention is that they are also good writers. So it's really hard to,
Mm.
it's very hard to capsulize what a book is all about in a small amount of space. Our reviews are 300 words. That's not a lot, but they're short
Mhm.
because people are busy and industry professionals don't have time to slog through a lot of long reviews. So they're written by writers who can convey a lot of information in a short amount of space, and that's really hard. They're able to summarize the book and talk about its strengths and weaknesses in this short amount of space. So
Mhm.
that's
Mhm.
one of the differences. Professional reviews go at the top of your Amazon and Barnes and Noble page. Come under editorial reviews. Librarians and booksellers and readers know that those carry more weight usually than the customer reviews. They're more trusted, I think, by professionals. Um, what else? They're good for back of the book blurbs. So a professional review, just imagine like some people do this. They'll put on the back of their book, this was a great book, Mary B. Jones. This is a great book, John Smith. Or
Yep.
but imagine the difference between that and this is a great book, the New York Times. Okay, that's carries just a whole ton more weight. So those are the difference between professional and a customer. So now some reviews are paid and some you can get for free. If you work it really hard, you can get reviewed in newspapers and magazines. You can get reviewed by bloggers. It's just you have to really work hard at it. You have to send your book out. You have to get a mailing list. You have to get your book out in advance of your publication date so that they have time to assign it out for a reviewer and get it in the magazine and newspaper at the time of your launch. These are free. If you can get them, they're free. Paid reviews are out there by people like us to help people who don't have the time or the perseverance to try to get free reviews. And these are paid reviews. They pay us a fee. We send the book out to an appropriate critic, and then that critic writes a review. So there are lots of companies doing, not lots, but there's a handful of companies that are doing this just for that reason that it helps people
Mhm.
get reviews. So
Mhm.
I think those are the main
What
differences.
would someone let's free, we all know what free means. So what's the expectation? Because do you recall it was really a few years ago, Amazon came in with a giant whack and really went after these paid reviews where people would literally who knows what they would get, $5. I mean, who knows what it is, but it
Oh,
was ridiculous cheap amount and they were garbage.
so
And
that's for
actually
paid
they never
reviews.
looked at the book. It was just get a posting up on Amazon to do those buildings that you were talking about, to get those numbers. And then they came down with, I know Amazon and BNN, they have submission guidelines, including that if someone lives in the same house or the IP of the computer of the author, when you're posting it,
Yeah.
you're
Yes.
out.
Yes.
You're out.
Yes. Yes. And there was a spate of that for a while, those really, really cheap reviews. But I will say this, if you're going to get a review for $5, you're going to know that's not a real review.
Not a review.
It takes people time to read books, and it costs money because we have to pay reviewers, and that costs money. And, anyways, I would say the people I'm talking about aren't $5.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And that's the challenge.
yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
with
It's
all of that.
expensive. It's expensive to get paid reviews that are going to be credible.
And that same discussion goes around with book awards. Well, why aren't they free? Well, book awards, they're reading books also, and all that, and that's what it it that's what happens during the weekend.
Right. And there's costs, overhead costs and things. And
Overhead costs.
yeah.
All of that has overhead costs and post out. So if you have that, and I'm all for going after the consumer reviews. So for all of you who are already authors, you're publishing, for heaven's sakes, create a little slip, put your book cover on it, ask for the review, get a shortener and put a link to Amazon as well as to Barnes and Noble, bn.com, to post a review. Do the ask. And then the third part is that wherever you are, and people are buying your books, if you're out in the public, if you're speaking, or if you're at a bookstore, for heaven's sakes, gather names and emails. Make a notation of what they bought and follow up with them. Thank them. Start a conversation and do the ask again. That's my suggestion for that. So we have that. All right, so let's say we get a review. It's a good review. What do you suggest we do?
Right. Well, all kinds of things you can do with reviews.
Okay.
And mostly
All
the
right.
first thing you're going to want to do probably is look at the review and find the most enticing lines in it. So you're going to want a little excerpt from the review that's really eye-catching.
Exactly.
A lot of times you'll see excerpts that go like, this book is about a cat. That's not the review you want. That's not the line you want. You want this book is help me, Judith. This book is wonderful. It's well written. It's fabulous. Whatever. You want superlatives in your excerpt.
You can have this book, if you're a romantic, this book has wonderful weaving, spicy dialogue
Yes.
between,
Exactly. So you find that line, there's always, if you've got a great review, there's going to be a line like that. So you identify the line. Then I'd say the first thing you think about is social media, because most authors, I think, and Judith, you could tell me if this is true, they know that they're supposed to be using social media. A lot of times authors are trained to, or they know to go on social media and create a conversation with readers before the book is out. And so they post a lot. And then once the book is out, you've posted everything you can think of. What next? So next thing is I got this rave review from Blue Ink or Publishers Weekly or whatever. And read it here, and here's the link. And you want to just blast that out everywhere. Here's a review that I got. And every time you get a new review, you can do that on your social media. And
Absolutely. Okay, let me give you some more ideas here. One of the big things, of course, is the evolution from just flat posters to reels, where there's action, there's movement, there's sound, there's voiceovers, there's fill in the blank. That you could take, let's say you found the blurb. There's a difference between a full-blown review and a blurb.
yeah.
That's spicy, interactive language. So that you can take a series of blurbs and you could piece them together and put them in a reel and put them out. Or like I do when we get new reviews at all, for example, on Amazon, if I know the name, if they give their name, you're free. You're going to be getting it. We will make a poster and we will have a picture somewhere of the book so people will know what we're talking about. And we will do a thank you poster to people who post reviews.
Yeah.
And we put those out on our social media on that. If another review comes in, from whether it could be a Blue Ink review, it could be from Kirkus, it could be from, Clarion, from Forward's Clarion. I mean, who knows where it comes from? And it could be from Amazon reader, Amazon buyer, someone who did it that way. Whatever it is, we would do that. Thank you. So it's like the cyber thank you note.
Yeah.
But pretty it up a little bit. So variations that you can do that. I got a review on my little cookbook, my Cooking with Judith book. This is this guy. We have had so much fun with this book. And that one of the reviewers, outside independent reviewer, came back she said, literally, by the time I finished reading this book, I was hungry. I loved that
Great
line.
blurb. Yeah.
That
Perfect.
line. So you just never know where they're coming from, but that you need to keep it going when you do that. And if people are writing reviews, it could be the headline they do for the review. That could
Yeah.
be the punch. But and you just and we're talking easy peasy stuff. So, if you've got a Canva account, free, start here. Do
Yeah. I
something.
love your idea about the reels. I hadn't thought of that, but that's a perfect
Mhm.
thing.
Yeah, piece them together.
Um,
And
Another thing to remember is your author website. You're going to want to put reviews on there. A lot of authors have their author page, their book page,
mhm,
and there'll be a tab that says reviews. The more,
mhm.
the better. So people can click on that tab and see that your book was well reviewed. You're going to want to use blurbs on your book jacket, obviously. The back of the book, those are really important. People flip the book over to see what other people are saying about it.
Mhm.
Press releases, I don't know how many people are doing that now because,
Please do.
yeah, yeah, because, press is getting scarcer and scarcer, but the publishing houses always do a press release and they have usually two or three really stellar blurbs at the top of the press release so that the editor who's looking at the press release knows right away this is a great book. You want to do that. You can use press releases for approaching booksellers or librarians as well.
Mhm.
Um, you're going to want to use it to get more reviews. So if you want to approach a blogger or uh, some professional reviewer, it's going to be a lot better if you say, look here, I got this great review. Are you interested in reviewing my book? It's just the same as any reader. Nobody wants to read a bad book. So when they know right away that somebody else has given it a good review, you can use it to kind of snowball getting more reviews. You're going to want to post it, as we talked about, in the editorial uh, section of Amazon and Barnes and Noble editorial reviews. You can have control of that page and you can post your blurb, or some people post the whole review there. Um, what else? Oh, you can use it on your,
Where would they find that? Where will they find the editorial review to upload to? I don't. A lot of authors may not even know about this.
yeah, it should be on their publisher page, I think, on Amazon. Do you know that? I don't do it, so I don't know, but we
Well,
do.
yeah, that it's the details page. It used to be in the old days there was real segments that you could get into, and actually, when you were uploading, they did have if it was like from a legit edit review of some sort versus your commentary. And that went away a long time ago. And now most of them are going to be using, and this is also, you want to add it to everyone if you're using Ingram and your Ingram Spark page. You get it. My thing that I've started pulling around, Patty, because it's some of this stuff keeps disappearing. These people keep changing what they're doing on it, that I would look for that blurb And if it was from Forward Magazine or Blue Ink Review, I would actually, on top of your details, so that's the first thing that they would see when they see your page on an Amazon, is I would have that blurb line that you want, and then right underneath it, put the source of it so
Yes.
people would know. That's one of the tricks I would go after.
Yes. So you want to blast it out everywhere you can.
Mhm.
Well, okay. So then another thing is the email signature. You can put a little quote underneath your signature on your email. So everyone who
Mhm.
gets your email knows you just got a great, you have great reviews for your book. You can use them to make ads for your book. So it's a really simple idea is just to use your thumbnail, book jacket and put your great excerpt underneath it with where that came from, and pretty
Mhm.
much that's all you really need to do for some sorts of ads. So
Mhm.
really simple. You can use it on, did I mention this? Bookmarks and postcards and things you give
Uh,
out.
no, but you should be.
Yeah, yeah. Things you give out when you're doing author book signings and things like that. You just always should have their blurb ready to let people know that you got a great review. And one thing I will say, two things that people don't think about is well, one thing is you can use them to improve your work, which, if you've got critical lines in your review, you should pay attention to those and use them as good feedback for either when you're going to revise your book or when you're going to be writing again. So it's really valuable feedback about what works and what doesn't for your writing.
Well, let's talk about a bad review. What happens? What do you do?
Well, yeah.
Have a
So
talk with yourself.
yeah. I always say to people like take a deep breath,
Yes.
deep
Yeah.
breath, and just give it some time. So a lot of times we get emails, you can tell somebody dashed off right after they got a bad review or a critical review, and they're really upset. And I understand that. It's really
They're
hard.
hurt. They're
Yes.
hurt.
And you've worked so hard and so long, and you've had all these expectations, and now you're just crushed. But what's interesting is a lot of times when people dash off those emails, we go back to the review and we look at it, and a lot of times those reviews are not terrible. They have usable lines for excerpts, and they might have a few critical things to say, but they also might have some really good things to say. And people just lose perspective when they look at it so quickly and react.
Hmm.
So I say leave it a couple of days and go back and see, give it some perspective. We've also had emails from people that say, I looked at this later and I realized that it could be really helpful for me. So please post it. Um,
Hmm.
it's,
Oh, because so what you're saying is when they use blue ink, they have a choice of whether or not the review is posted.
yeah, I forgot to mention that. Yes. So
Well, we have now.
yes, thank you. So if you don't want it posted, you don't have to. But it's really helpful to have it posted. It helps your SEO, right? It helps all those things. Um,
Well, I
and
think I think what's really important when one of these, and we've all had negative reviews, people, is sometimes our books, it just got in. For example, I don't write horror, and if I gotten someone who just delights in horror, it's not going to be a good. It's just it's just not a good fit. I think you need to have a just really heart to heart with yourself. But when you get these things, I think it's time for a heart to heart. So are they right? Is there, or if you get a series, maybe Patty, it's not just one. It's to me, it's when there's a whole bunch that comes in. That means, let's get into red flags, but that's a red flag
no, but
that,
I know what you're saying because I wanted to mention that is that, sometimes reviews can be outliers, right? So you might get five reviews and one of them's really negative and the rest are very positive. So that tells you, well, maybe that reviewer was a little off base and you might pay less attention to that review. But if you're getting five reviews that say that you need better character development, that's really good feedback. I mean, not that you want to see it after you've printed your book, but it's good feedback for any other time. So yeah, you got to take it all in context of how what other reviews you're getting and what you're hearing.
Mhm.
Also, do not go back and say, "Oh, well, my friends and family loved it, so I don't get,"
No,
you
yeah,
know, you get that a
that's
lot.
it. You've just shot yourself in the foot. I remember Patty getting a review on my book, Author You. It was really designed as a workbook. It was like a 7 by 10. It was meant to open up. And there were lines in it because it's a workbook uh, on that. And I had we had characters in it that went, the cartoon. And the one really negative, and that's where now some of these reviews that come in negative, people, that you just take it with a grain of salt and let it go.
Yes.
And I mean, I actually could respond back to this guy because he put it up on Amazon on that. And then, this was it's not a cheap book. And that when it first came out, it was like $45. I mean, that was a lot,
Yeah.
you know, like 7 years ago. And that it came out and it just of of the lines, and he said, and he said, I didn't expect to see cartoons. I didn't want to buy a children's books. And so, so I go around, and the book did very well, but I responded back and I said, I'm just so sorry this wasn't a fit. And if you'll send me your address, I will be happy to refund your money personally. I will be happy to do that. But and then I said, but it's a workbook, and I expect people to write in it. And secondly, there's a lot of this was a book about publishing and how to publish, and there's a great many of business books today have some kind of animation in them, some type of cartoon to lighten it up, especially when it's maybe a heavier topic. So, but again, just
Yeah.
contact me. Here's my address. I am glad to send you a refund, and I'm sorry it wasn't. I never heard back.
Well, I think you did it the right way. I mean, some people get really upset and they go all over social media or wherever they're posting and they get angry. And angry is the wrong way to go public.
Oh,
Like you might be
oh,
angry privately, but don't go public with your anger. It's a bad look. We had there when we first started doing Blue Ink, there was a blog about a woman who had she got really angry because the reviewer said her book wasn't copy edited correctly. And she wrote posts all over the place that were badly spelled and, bad grammar. And people were
yeah.
just like piling all over her that she was, clearly the book was not good anyway. So it's just a really bad look to be sour grapesing about a review publicly.
Well, it is. And also, I do want to say that if you start getting a lot of feedback about editing and the like, you better pay attention to it.
Yeah.
And I've actually advised some authors to take their book down, but pull it down. You need other eyes on it because those are the ones that said, well, I've edited it myself. Um, well, good. That's a good start.
Yes, that's a start. Yes, well, that's one of the red flags. Do you want to talk about that? I mean, that is a definite red flag. Um, there are certain things authors do that are very commonly get bad reviews. Make books that are bad reviews, get bad
Well,
reviews.
what are those? Can you kind of
Well,
just roll?
yeah, the first one is really bad copy editing. That's huge. I think people tend to think that all these things you learn in school are just, somebody who's really nitpicky expects good grammar and good spelling but people don't sometimes realize that those conventions are there to help people understand what your book is about and what you're trying to say. So if you have bad grammar, bad punctuation, it's very hard to read a book with that and understand what the author's trying to convey. And immediately reviewers will notice and be like, this is done by an amateur. And those books always get, I won't say they always get full negative reviews, but that's always mentioned. this book is really poorly copy edited. Sometimes they'll be like, it's really hard to read. It's a huge challenge. You cannot send out a book that's not well copy edited. You'll always get a negative on that. That's
Mhm.
a red flag. So if you don't have a professional editor, copy editor, that's a red flag. You should probably not submit your book for a review until you do.
Mhm.
Um, Another one that's kind of common for us anyway is a book that's too long or too short. We get a lot of books that are like 120 pages, and usually those are written by people that aren't really writers, and they don't know how to flesh out their story or give enough detail if it's nonfiction. And those reviews often, if not always, say this book needs to be fleshed out. It's a good kernel of an idea. It's just not there yet. On the contrast, we also get a lot of books that are 700, sometimes 900 pages. And
Oh,
yeah, we do. But I'm not going to say they're always bad, but it's something to look at. If your book is that long, you better be sure that every page is exciting because nobody's going to go through 900 pages. Those are books that often get reviews that say this book, you know, also is very promising, but it's too long and it needs to be edited.
it needs a good editor. You know,
Yeah.
I one of the things I had, it was last summer, I decided I am going to reread Gone with the Wind. I decided that, and it was kind of an eye opener, you know, how prejudice. There's
Oh,
so prejudice. Oh my God. But also, I came away and feeling they needed a good editor in here. There was just sections that could be whacked out of there. You know,
wow.
I
In
felt
this,
that.
yeah, this day and age, our attention spans we just don't have tolerance for that kind of thing, right?
Yeah,
We
yeah,
just,
it's changed. So the big boys, those 900-page doorstops,
yeah.
you better be writing fantasy because that's where that
Yeah,
group is.
that's what I was going to say. So science fiction and fantasy, often those are longer because they take a lot of space to build those worlds and make sure that you're immersed
Mhm,
in that world. And people who do it well can still write a long book that people will
mhm,
just adore, you know.
mhm,
But
mhm.
in general, if you have a 900-page book, you better look at that so carefully before you submit it for review, or you're most likely headed for a lot of criticism. Um,
Well, if it gets too long, you might not be able to print it.
Yeah.
Also,
Yeah. How much can you print? Well, yeah. What's the limit on that?
well, it's not. Also, I mean, prices. We all got notices that Ingram, if you're printing through Ingram, and their subsidy under Spark, is that they raised their prices all January. Actually, this in January they were all raised again. And usually Amazon's printing it could be like $1 even less a book, easy peasy on some of those things. But you really have to look at your costs because that I think it kind of ties in, Patty, that a lot of authors don't think of publishing as a business. This thing called authoring is a business, and that there are cost factors, whether it's the editor, whether it's the book designer, whether it's the printing, all the other fill in the blanks. And if your goal is to sell in the bookstore, I mean, isn't that like a dream of many authors to have their books carried in a bookstore? So basically, that bookstore from the source is going to be buying it at least 50% off. So if your retail price is 20, that means $10 is what they're buying out. And that your cost of creating that book could be far in excess of that $10 per book, or
Yeah.
printing it at that. And that's when the wake up calls. And I think that everyone, if you go into any bookstores or you're buying today, there is a dramatic increase in the cost per unit retail, that it's all come out. I mean, we're seeing that everywhere now.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a really good point that you're doing. This is a product, it's a business. And one of the other red flags I was going to mention is a lot of authors don't really consider who their target audience is.
Yeah.
That's a red flag. So I was just thinking about this, and we got a book in recently. It was like a mind, body, spirit book, and it was about spiritual issues. And
Mhm.
it kind of combined, it had a lot of science about consciousness and stuff like that, or, pseudoscience. And then it had some tips on how to meditate, and it had a lot of stuff, and it was all basically about spiritual issues. But there are certain kind of readers. One kind of reader wants to learn tips on how to meditate or how to access various spiritual hierarchies and things. That there might be a scientific reader who wants to read all of the academic type stuff about that, but they're probably not the same reader in the same book, And if you're going to mesh those together, that review ended up saying, well, we don't know who the target audience is for this. It's really, you have to be aware that this is a product
Very clear.
audience, right?
Absolutely. Patty, we have like at 2 minutes, our 2 minute
Oh,
mark. So I'd like to show people what your website looks like.
oh, thank you. Yeah, that'd be great.
And bring that up. So I'm bringing this up so you can all see the homepage of Blue Ink Review. So you can see at the very top, blueinkreview.com. And going on to, you can social media is all over the place, but you can find out who they are, what kind of authors, the authors. I would suggest you sign up for their blog. Really excellent information, and how they're. I'm going to click on reviews. Here's a sample, the shorty sample. So this is the new one. All right, book one. Oh, so here we have a series opening up. So, Patty, how do you put all your reviews up on each page?
We put all the reviews up unless an author has opted out. In other words, they don't want their
Okay.
review to be seen. So otherwise, every review goes up, and you'll see it in this format. On the right side, you can see that people can search for what kind of genres they
Hmm.
like, and
Hmm.
any subcategories. Our search is really easy.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, it's just pretty straightforward. Uh,
Hmm. So
we
here's interesting. The reviewer found some flaws in the book, but said besides that, a paranormal reader who loves these kind of thrillers will be perfect. There, it tells you who's it for, and I love this line. Here's the blurb I would be looking for right
Yeah,
there. The
yes,
final twist is worth the wait. All right,
great.
and
Yeah.
I would have Blue Ink Review, and then here's Babel where people can buy it. Are these live links over to the page for the books?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So lots of there. So what about, and you getting, so you're going to say, okay, this sounds pretty good to me. How do I do this? And here is so to get it really quick, you have that. There's your two view repackages is a smidge under $800. The quality that they have with Forward magazine and what they do there. I'm going to stop, just come back here. The quality they have would be one of the ones. This is an investment. This is called book marketing investment that I would be going into to recommend to all of you. So, Patty, we've got 30 seconds.
Oh
Last,
gosh. All I'm
last,
going to do is say thank you. It was really
you're,
fun. I
you're welcome.
appreciate it. And
All
enjoy the
right.
story day.
Yeah, on a whole day. Well, all right, so heat up your book sales, everyone. This is part of marketing. When you get a great review, you can pull out those blurbs, or like that one that I just highlighted for that, just randomly, I just opened up a review. That could go into, guess what? A press release, and do that shoot out with that. So again, Patty Thorn, managing editor of Blue Ink Review, thank you so much.
Thank you, Judith. Have a good day.
I will.
Bye-bye.
I